You're listening to the Hurdy Gurdy Travel Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Vacula, here to help you travel the world at next to no cost with credit card points, miles, benefits, and rewards. Make money, save money, and take advantage of great deals. So for today's episode, I have an audio component on YouTube with the video and audio with podcast where I'm going to respond to the Ramsey show, the Dave Ramsey show highlight clip, why people are afraid to let go of credit cards, which is really interesting as this is for them, again, anti-credit card. They're saying credit cards are all bad, don't have any credit cards. Everyone should cancel credit cards. It's all a waste of time. As I've said in previous videos responding to Dave Ramsey in the Dave Ramsey Debunked playlist series on YouTube, Dave Ramsey just does not teach a good strategy about credit cards. He misrepresents the idea of credit. He doesn't even understand the basics of FICO scores and credit scores. And he could be better off saying, okay, you can use credit cards in a responsible manner, be responsible with your spending, or if for some reason you have no self-control whatsoever, then maybe you shouldn't have credit cards. But the credit cards in themselves aren't necessarily bad things. It's how you use credit. If you use credit responsibly, as I teach, you can travel the world at next to no cost. You can earn cash back. You can get flights and hotels at very, very low cost, sometimes just totally free. Now, you might have some expenses to go with travel, but it's going to be better than paying in full out of pocket. That's for sure. So let's listen to Ramsey's clip here, why people are afraid to let go of credit cards, and I'll stop the video and respond at certain points.
Here was the question for the poll. I love it. I said, if you're a credit card user, what is the biggest thing holding you back from getting rid of the cards?
So if you're a credit card user, what's holding you back from getting rid of cards? Well, why do we want to get rid of cards if we could be responsible? If we can put charges on the card, pay the balance off in full, we're not paying any interest, we're able to get cash back, points, enjoy travel benefits, and be able to live an easier type of life. Now, in the clip, he's talking about, what about people don't have credit cards? How are you going to pay for this? How are you going to pay for that? He's talking about, you can get into an arrangement with people, but it's not a realistic life here in 2023 of not having a credit card. You're having to book travel. You're having to front hotel rooms for incidental costs. You want the purchase protections from credit cards. In previous clips, he's talked about, debit cards and credit cards have the same protections. That's absolutely false. It's definitely not the case that you're getting the same purchase protection using credit or debit when many cards have enhanced benefits, and you're going to have to float the money if there's any kind of dispute or fraud going on with your bank account or debit card in many cases.
Right. That's how I posed the question. I got tons of responses.
How many people responded, do you know?
A few hundred at least.
Okay, so where's the poll? Where are people responding? Is it the Dave Ramsey audience? Who is it? Are these people who can't use credit responsibly? Are these general credit card users? Like, what's the case? So if you're to ask me, well, what is the reason, Justin, that you use credit cards? Well, I can use the lines of credit to make money in many cases because I sell items on eBay. So instead of using my debit card or cash to pay for everything, I can use credit and pay back in 30 days. And on many credit cards, I have 0% introductory APR, where I have an interest-free loan for 9 months, 12 months, or 15 months. I mentioned in a previous video, I got approved for the US Bank Triple Cash credit card. $500 welcome offer, 0 APR for 15 months. So in the process, I'm going to be responsible. I'm not just going to buy random stuff. I'm embracing the frugal lifestyle Dave Ramsey is saying, okay, don't buy all this stuff. Don't buy this brand new car. Don't care about expensive clothes. I'm with Ramsey on that point. I'm using credit responsibly. I'm paying it off. I'm not having issues. So instead of fronting the money for the things I'm reselling, I can use credit, get the rewards, have the protections, and have the flexibility. I'm going to pay things back in full. And with what I'm doing on eBay, I have return policies where I can take items back to store if they don't sell. And I'm not just speculatively buying random stuff. I'm doing my research. I'm in groups that are suggesting what to buy, and it's been a pretty good run here for years. I'm also buying and reselling gift cards. There's a Staples promotion going on this week for fee-free MasterCard gift cards that I can buy and use them on online gambling sites. I'm getting 5 times points with my Chase Ink Cash credit card. I'm giving up about a 0.5% house edge in blackjack. So the edge is tremendous, 4.5%, just playing basic strategy, as you could see in my previous videos. So for people in the Ramsey audience who are using cash and debit, you're not getting these points. Now, Ramsey's criticizing, oh, you're going to have to spend $100,000 to get like $100 or whatever, but not when you're getting increased earning on certain categories. And when you're able to spend a lot through gift cards, through prepaid cards, through reselling, whatever the case, it's actually going to be more dramatic what you're earning. I talk to business owners. They host travel clubs and they have big expenses where people pay them, they make transactions with credit, and they're racking up the miles. Previous guest on my show, Mandy, gets reimbursed for travel by her employer. So she's able to put flights and hotel rooms on her credit card, get reimbursed. She's getting hotel statuses, airline statuses, and racking up the points so that she's traveling for next to no cost. But people in Dave Ramsey audience are not able to do that. So why, Dave Ramsey Show, if you can be responsible with credit, why aren't you using credit? What is this? Oh, you're afraid to let go of credit cards. Everybody should cancel credit cards. It's not the case that just because you use credit, you're going to go into debt. If you could be responsible, then use credit. Absolutely embrace credit. And we're not just using a card getting 1% cash back. We're applying for multiple cards to get welcome offers and benefits. It's much more dramatic than the Dave Ramsey Show is making out to be. Oh, 1%, 1%. We're doing a lot better than 1%.
All right. So this is anecdotally, this is science, basically.
Okay, so he's saying it's anecdotal and it's science. Well, that's not the case. An anecdotal poll, especially from a sample size of his own audience, I don't think that's going to be representative of the general public, really. It's not science. It's just an anecdotal poll, as he said.
Yes, that's right.
And I got a lot of the natural responses that we've gotten for 30 years, right? It's the points, the cash back, the rewards. I love getting my free flight.
Okay, so they're laughing, the points, the cash back, the rewards. So they're using cash and debit for everything. They're getting 0% back. The Hurdy Gurdy Travel Podcast audience is getting 2% plus on everything, and the welcome bonuses, and the 0 APR, and the travel benefits. I'm getting lounge access, I'm getting room upgrades, I'm getting seat upgrades on flights, I'm getting statement credits, I'm getting so much more. I got a postcard from one of my cars to say, spend $750 at gas stations, and we'll give you a $50 statement credit. So it was trivial to go to a local gas station Speedway, buy Visa prepaid cards. I pay a $5.95 activation fee, but I'm getting the $50 back, $75 back from the statement credit, and I'm just able to turn that card into cash with the online gambling. So the Dave Ramsey audience, they're not getting that $50, $75 free money minus the $5.95 activation fee in a little bit of time. But let's say, to be generous, okay, $10 you gave up to get 75 or $50. Why would you not do that? The Dave Ramsey audience isn't doing that. It took maybe 2 minutes in the store. It was on the way somewhere else I was already going. The transaction was simple. So Dave Ramsey, you're not getting these statement credits now. Okay, Dave Ramsey, you have all this money, but your listeners really don't. A lot of these people calling into your show, they're low income earners, they're middle class, as you say. Some of these people are in debt. So actually credit cards can be a great way to make some extra income. But Dave Ramsey is going to say, don't do that. Don't have any credit cards, cut them all up. Oh, you're afraid to let go of your credit cards. You should just cancel everything. You have fear, and that's why you don't want to cancel them.
Right.
I need it to book hotels and
yes.
rent cars. And
Yeah, good luck trying to book a hotel without a credit card. Good luck trying to rent a car without a credit card. How is that going to work? You're going to have to bring in several $100s, give it to the desk, and then get your refundable deposit after the fact. That sounds like a lot of hassle. Or maybe you're driving, you're paying tolls, you're using an Easy Pass. In some cases, okay, yeah, we can connect our credit card to that and earn points, but these people that are cash only and not even using debit cards, so you're telling me you're driving down, you're stopping at the toll plaza and inserting your change into a basket. It's like these little things that add up that seem to be like a major inconvenience. Handling all this cash, handling all this change that you're paying in cash at local grocery stores, like what a pain, what a hassle. And I've seen many people, they get change back at Dunkin' Donuts and they just throw it into this random tip jar. I've seen these tip jars that self-checkout in some cases, so the people are actually spending more. And a lot of these merchants are putting these transaction fees or interchange fees in the transactions. So maybe the grocery store pays a certain percentage or certain money back to the credit card issuers or these processors. So if you're using credit, you're actually getting points back on your purchase. I have the US Bank Altitude Reserve credit card. Every time I use mobile wallet, mobile pay, I'm getting 4.5% back. And that's actually really, really nice. It's more than the 1%. Oh, your points and miles. Dave Ramsey's lamenting, oh, you're only getting 1% back. It's not worth it. I'm getting 4.5% back on all these mobile wallet transactions. And I have other cards that give 6% back on grocery up to a certain amount per year, 4 times points at grocery. up to a certain amount every year. So it's actually dramatic earning, and it's a pretty easy way to live, just using credit rather than having to carry around all this cash, dealing with change, dealing with bills, all this stuff. So the convenience is pretty nice, and all the bonuses that come with credit cards is just a little bit extra that adds to the equation.
I got to keep up my credit score so I can get a house and get car loans and all.
Correct. Credit score helps you get a house and car loan. Now, Dave Ramsey is talking about, oh, do the manual underwriting, and you're going to need to submit all your pay stubs. You're going to need to do this and that. It's a complicated process just getting a mortgage to begin with. But if you're going to try to get a mortgage without a credit score or like an NA score, Dave Ramsey says, I have a 0 credit score, which I don't even think is the case. I've heard some people say like NA if you don't have credit, just comes up as NA. So maybe a little difference there, but it's going to be a lot harder getting a mortgage if you don't have credit scores. So what is the problem, Dave Ramsey show? Why not just use credit responsibly, pay everything off in full, and have a high credit score? Now, don't speculatively buy things. Don't say, oh, well, I'm just going to buy this $10,000 TV and it'll work out. I'll get the money later or whatever. Only buy what you can afford. Be careful with your spending. Again, if you can't be disciplined, don't play the game. But is it really so bad, Dave Ramsey, that your audience has no self-control? You think so poorly of your audience that these people have literally no self-control, that they can't even just say, okay, well, maybe it's a little bit tempting to use credit, so I'll just put an auto pay on it. I'll just use it for groceries, but I'm just going to say, hey, I'm not going to use credit when I can't afford things. I'm going to be careful. I'm going to be intentional. I'm not going to impulsively spend. I think some people can be responsible, Dave. So to say don't use credit cards at all, no one should ever have credit cards, is a total disaster. Even if some portion of your audience doesn't have the self-control, don't say don't have any credit cards ever, anyone, and it's all a waste or you're going to go into debt. It's just not true.
All these things. But the one that shocked me, Ken, a lot of people said fear.
Fear.
Of?
Just fear.
That's
so I did.
So people are afraid to let go of credit cards. It's just fear, they said. So do we get any more information? I mean, I wouldn't say, well, why do you still have credit cards, Justin? Well, I keep credit to make money, save money, and travel at low cost. It's not fear, but I will say that it is nice having a little bit of a security blanket in a way that I have all these lines of credit that if I need to make purchase, if something goes wrong. A few years ago, 4th of July, I got rear-ended on the 4th of July, and my car was disabled, had to be towed. It was deemed a total. And it was actually a really nice thing to say, okay, well, I can just get an auto loan for a modest used vehicle. I don't have to worry about, oh, do I have the cash? Do I have this? Or have some auto repairs, some bigger expenses. I don't have to worry about that. It's not going to be like, how am I going to afford this? What am I going to do? I'm just going to have to sit home for a month or two. It's just not the case. With the extra lines of credit, I'm spending responsibly. I have additional flexibility. I have the 0 APR. I keep getting new cards. I keep getting approved. It's actually quite a big peace of mind knowing that I have extra funding if I have to use it. Even in a disastrous scenario where I have this extreme medical emergency, it's like, okay, well, you have to get this expensive, like $10,000 surgery, and I don't have the cash at the moment. I could front the cash, but why do that if I can use credit and not pay interest? If I can put it on 0 APR cards, that's actually pretty nice rather than having to give up basics of life. As later in the clip, they're talking about people just not having air conditioning because they don't want to put it on a credit card, that they're just going to sweat. It gets interesting, like the squalor type life that they're suggesting here.
I dug in. Okay. I DM'd. I said, tell me more about that. Elaborate.
Right. Yeah.
Elaborate.
Because that means a lot of things to a lot of people. Some people did admit, they said, hey, this is a safety blanket.
Yep, the extra credit lines indeed are a safety blanket. You have extra funding. You can use the bank's money to make money.
It's a crutch.
Yep.
If something goes wrong.
Now, I'm not going to say, okay, listener, maybe you're working some job making $10, $15 at Target. You're working part-time. Now, don't go ahead and put like a $3,000 expense that you can't afford on a credit card and pay the interest. If people had a big payment, like I've heard some stories from people say, okay, well, I have to have this dental work done and I've had some extreme dental pain. And do you suggest that I put it on a credit card I already have and I can't really afford it? It doesn't make sense to pay the interest. Well, maybe it can make sense to get one of those 0 APR credit cards in a situation like that rather than dealing with extreme dental pain. That, okay, I'm not really thrilled about suggesting this because you don't have the money for the dental work, but please be responsible. Put that extra money aside that you're making at Target. You'll have the 0 APR for 12 months, 15 months, whatever it is, and make sure to just pay that in full and be very careful and very responsible. Now, that might be a rare situation. It's a lot different than the person just randomly going out and buying all these expensive clothes, jewelry, whatever it is, alcohol, really expensive bar trips. Like, I'm not recommending doing that at all. Again, I'm embracing the frugal lifestyle like Dave Ramsey is. So yeah, you could put the things on credit and pay it off at a later date. Again, that's requiring you to be responsible and have the money. And it's not only credit cards I'm talking about in here. I talk about a lot of different apps, a lot of different programs that you can use to make and save money even without credit. So there are a lot of side hustles that come in this hobby that you can use, like grocery apps, loyalty programs, so much more. The Cash App debit card was a thing for a while where I was making like $20 a week just using Cash App boosts at grocery stores. I talk about online blackjack and being able to make money through that, taking advantage of site welcome bonuses. Emails were like, oh, deposit $200, play 200 today, get $30 back. And these things are very, very, very low risk ventures that you can take the time and learn and make money. But thanks to credit, this is possible because we're getting an extra edge. Otherwise, it's not so appealing. But Dave Ramsey show, oh, don't ever use credit, don't ever have credit cards. Even though I'm explaining there's so many different ways that you can make and save money with credit, they're still saying, no, don't do it. You can't be disciplined. You're going to overspend. It's all this hype. Now, maybe some of the people, again, don't have self-control, but surely a good portion of his audience can have self-control, but they're just not going to admit that.
I know I'm covered with my line of credit, thanks to 28%
Yes.
interest from the credit card company.
Okay, but it doesn't have to be 28% interest from the credit card company. As I mentioned, a lot of cards will have 0% introductory APR offers, personal cards and business cards. So if you do have that dental work, rather than suffering in pain, maybe it makes sense to go and take that credit card with 0 APR to get that $1,000, $1,500 dental work, whatever the case might be. Like, is the Ramsey Show going to say, you know what, hey, I know you have extreme pain and you need to get this root canal or this abscess tooth or this thing dealt with. Well, you don't have the money, so don't go into debt. That's the worst thing ever. Debt's going to haunt you every night. Is it going to be the root canal? Is it going to be the dental surgery or suffer in pain because you don't want to go in debt? Like, these are serious things. They're so extreme on the Ramsey Show that they're saying don't have credit ever, don't go into debt ever. Debt is this worst thing. And instead of teaching you a better way to use credit and ways to be responsible, they're just saying no credit ever, which is a very, very dogmatic and interesting perspective they're taking.
Companies, what a blessing.
Right.
But
Yeah, what a blessing. It doesn't have to be the 28% interest.
I wanted you to address this idea of fear because you've been
It's like, they're just laughing at it. They're just laughing at credit. It's like not really much of an argument here.
leading a financial peace class virtually, and this has come up a lot when it comes to the $1,000 emergency fund scares me. I can't cut up the card because what if?
Yeah, what if? So if you can be responsible, then don't cut up the card. Continue to have the card and take advantage of all these offers. The banks are giving these great sign-up bonuses. I just got approved for a Chase Ink card with a 100,000 point sign-up offer earlier this morning. That's going to be worth more than $1,500 in travel. Or I can just cash it out and take the $1,000. So if you have these bigger expenses coming, you're going to have the dental work, you're going to pay auto insurance, you're going to have to pay for home heating, whatever it is, why not just put that on credit, pay it off in full, and take advantage of the sign-up offer? It's such easy money, but Dave Ramsey Show is depriving you of this easy money. They're telling you don't have any credit cards, don't use credit, you're going in debt, you're going to be paying this 28% interest, and it's simply not the case. I'm sure you can be responsible, listener. I'm sure a good percentage of listeners here can be responsible with credit. I know many people who are.
If there's so much fear, and some of it stems from their childhood. They told me, hey, I grew up poor. We grew up not having money.
Yeah, so guess what? I didn't grow up as a rich person. I didn't travel very often. My travel when I was younger was local rides. We go to amusement parks. We go to state parks. I don't think I flew at all in my childhood. The first time I flew was in my 20s. And thanks to credit cards, I'm flying and traveling so often. And people say, Justin, how can you afford all this travel? Justin, oh, that must be expensive. Justin, how do you do all this? Isn't that really complicated? I said, no, I'm happy to teach you how to do this. You could join the club. If you can manage credit responsibly, you could take advantage of the greed of the banks. The banks are hoping you pay that interest. The banks are hoping that you miss payments. The banks are hoping that you're going to mess up and overextend. But if you can be smart about it, it's just being responsible, being organized. It's really not that bad. Even if you're only going to get 2 or 3 cards a year, maybe even you just get 1 card and quit. Why not take that sign-up bonus? You can travel. You don't have to be beholden to, oh, travel's expensive. Oh, I can only travel once a year. Or some people I know is like, well, I travel once a year and then I'm broke, so I'm not able to do it. Or I've had former coworkers who would talk about, well, I'd put money into a Christmas fund and I'd get the money from each paycheck and go in the fund and then I'm broke. It doesn't have to be this way. You can do better. You can profit from credit.
We grew up where if one paycheck didn't show up, we were screwed.
Yeah, and now that I have credit, I have so many options to pay things, and I use credit to make and save money. And so can you, listener. I'm not living paycheck to paycheck. I don't have to deal with the anxiety of how am I going to pay for this if this incident happens, or what if. I don't have to worry about it. It's not going to be an issue.
And so I have a lot of empathy for those that have that fear, but you've talked a lot about this on your show, whether it's career or money.
Yeah, but he's just lamenting everyone using credit. Like, if you could teach these low-income people how to use credit responsibly, you're going to change their lives. So many people have come on this show who've talked about, I haven't traveled before. I thought travel was too expensive. I thought this would have been too complicated. But they did it. They followed the process. They stayed on it. They stayed on top of things. And now it's travel all the time. It's major trips. Las Vegas, I've gone to so many times. Comp cruises, or I'm only paying the taxes and fees. I'm going to be going to Memphis next month. And how much would that cost? If I were to fly out there, there'd easily be a few $100s. The hotel would probably be $200-$300 a night where I'm staying. But thanks to miles and points, it's very close to zero. Now, I don't have to worry about, how am I going to travel? How am I going to afford this? Or am I going to be in debt after vacation? It's never the case. But with the Dave Ramsey show, they're saying don't use credit. It's not worth it. But yet I'm able to do all this travel because of credit.
Money. Fear is holding people back in a whole lot of ways.
Yeah. Well, a couple things on that. Most of the time, if you actually look at the data, the things that we worry about, which is another place.
Okay, so maybe the things you worry about don't happen. And some people can really have this intense anxiety of, what if I just trip and fall and break my neck on the sidewalk? And they're like afraid to go outside, agoraphobia, it's a thing. But what about if the car breaks down? What if we have this dental issue? What if we get injured at work? Well, now we have a lot more to fall back on. A past show guest, Heidi, she works in schools and now she has off for the summer. I was talking to her and some of her coworkers were wondering about, how am I going to make money during the summer? What am I going to do? They're having to work these odd jobs in some cases or go to this crappy retail job and work during the summer because they're off. But thanks to credit, the deals, the hobby, all the things that we do, my listeners do, all different kinds of deals all across the United States. They're able to use credit to make and save money. They don't really have to worry about it. Now, she's still working. She wants to get some benefits from work. She still wants to be active and not just exclusively doing the credit stuff. But guess what? Now there's extra money behind. Now we've saved money on travel. Now we haven't paid for gas. We haven't paid for groceries because we're using store loyalty programs. Just constant promotions going on at grocery stores. Staples, I mentioned. There's always something to do with this hobby. A lot of people even do more than I do. I know I'm not producing videos every day, every week even. Some people are doing more regular shows. And you know what? Everybody's having success as long as they're responsible with credit. Some success is better than nothing and taking the Ramsey route of just using debit and cash, and they're paying full price for travel. They're not getting cash back on their debit cards. They're not using all these loyalty programs. They're not able to take advantage because they're not getting the extras that credit cards are giving.
Placeholder for fear, because I think fear is defined as I'm worried that something bad is going to happen.
Okay, well, I don't really know what information we got on that.
I just think that's the way I define fear, and I think that's really true.
And I think we know the definition of fear.
And so most of the time, the things we worry about rarely happen.
Okay, he said that.
That's just some basic psychology study right there, where they the things we worry about most of the time never actually happen.
He said it like 4 times.
So there's that. The second thing is that people are afraid that they're going to be destitute, broke.
Yeah, it's a possibility.
So far behind the 8 ball that they never recovered that they...
Yeah, some people could just get laid off from a job and they don't have traditional work. And now, guess what? If there was something that happened that said hey, Justin, you're not allowed to gamble anymore. You can't make money. All the online blackjack sites are gone. You're not making money in these promotions. You're not getting this particular play. If one of my plays goes downhill, I have so many more I can fall back on.
They forget that the credit card's going to hit them for 28%.
But the credit card doesn't have to hit you for 28%. Why do you keep saying that you're going to be paying interest when it's simply not the case?
Versus, and let's give you a real life example. Let's
Okay, versus. So it's like there's
say
one.
an HVAC system goes out. Okay, because this is one of the things that popped up in our FPU class.
Okay, so you lose air conditioning. So what are you going to do?
I've got an old HVAC system. I'm going to have to replace it. It's on its last leg. I don't want to be in the house all summer in sweltering heat.
Yeah, that sounds terrible. So is it the case that it's either 28% interest or sweat? I think there's a third option there of using credit with a 0% intro APR that you'll pay off in full at a later time rather than paying 28% interest. Putting it on a credit card that you've had for a while, that's not going to be a smart decision. If you can't afford it, I think it makes sense to say, okay, well, you know what? I'm not so thrilled about putting this expense on a new card, but I don't want to be sweating in 95-degree weather in the middle of the summer. So I'm just going to say, hey, let's cut the eating out. Let's cut this. Let's cut that. We'll have more money to pay off this card, pay it in full, and we'll get it dealt with at a later time. Now, this could be a dangerous thing. This could not be for everyone. If you can't be responsible and you're spending and you're living at paycheck to paycheck, then that might not be great and you're going to have to sweat, unfortunately. But yeah, going through the mindfulness, going through this responsible of saying like, before I purchase this thing, might I wait another hour or two before making the decision? Might I just stop browsing Amazon at 1 o'clock in the morning when I'm really tired? Because maybe if I'm tired, I'm going to buy more things. Maybe all these people talking about steakhouses is just complete hype, and it doesn't make sense to go out and spend $200 to eat when I could just fire up the rice cooker at home. You know, we can cut some of these expenses if we can't afford these things. Now, maybe you want some entertainment and some luxury in your life. Like, okay, I mean, I'm still firing up my rice cooker in the morning rather than having all this expensive food. That's just me. But if you're going to go out and eat, you can say, okay, well, I'm going to set this kind of budget. I'm only going to spend like $100, $200 a month. Or if I can't afford it, well, okay, now we're going to go to Dave Ramsey's rice and beans. I mean, maybe that has to be the case if you're paying the 28% interest. But you can avoid the 28% interest. It doesn't have to be that way when you make new purchases on new credit cards offering 0% APR. But they're not going to talk about this. They're not going to tell you that. They're just going to say, oh, it's just destined to be 28% interest.
Not be able to sleep. And by the way, I get all that. I don't minimize any of that. It's like,
But does he?
yeah, I get it. All right, so they think the credit card then is the safety net.
Yeah, so he's not really giving you that third option. He's not saying, okay, well, yeah, you can put on credit. And you know what? Even you can time it really well. Say, okay, I'm recording this video June 19th, and my credit card statement is going to close on the 20th. So if I put that charge on after the statement closes, then it's going to take 30 days for the next statement. Then there's going to be the 30-day grace period. So I have a lot of time to pay that in full before the interest hits. And okay, I make maybe, let's say, Dave Ramsey listeners, say you make like $1,000 a week, and this is a $1,000 charge, and after expenses you have like $250 back. So actually you can make that $1,000 purchase by putting that $250 aside, keeping your checking account wherever it is, and then paying it off in full, and you have extra time to do it. Now, again, this could be dangerous. You have to be responsible, but it's better than sweating and not getting sleep at night.
So if we have to put $8,000 into an HVAC system or $6,000 or whatever it is, well, we put it on the credit card, no problem. But now we're paying 28% interest.
Okay, but again, it doesn't have to be 28% interest if we're getting it on a new 0% APR credit card.
As opposed to going to the HVAC company and going, hey, here's the situation.
So how successful is that going to be? So you don't have the cash and you're just going to talk to these HVAC people and say, well, I don't have the money. Could we just set up a payment plan? And they're going to say like, oh, why should we believe that you're going to pay us back? And, oh, well, you know, you can use credit to do that, or you can go with our nonsense credit card that just gives you like a $50 sign-up bonus or whatever. Like, I've gone to some of these auto stores and like, whoa, sign up for the Michelin credit card and get a $50 welcome offer. And, you know, maybe there's not even a 0% APR offer with that. Well, you can do a lot better, as many of these cards are giving you bigger sign-up bonuses. But yeah, negotiating with the HVAC company to just make your own payment plan, I'm not really sure that's going to work out, Ramsey Show.
Here's my financials. I need this HVAC system.
Okay, so if you can show your financials and you can promise to pay it back, then why not use credit to pay it back rather than just making this random payment plan? You can get a new card, put the expenses on it, pay it off in full at a later time, not paying the 28% interest, get a sign-up bonus, and not have to go into these weird negotiations that probably aren't going to work.
We're stuck. So we either are with ceiling fans and and just fans.
Hey, I mentioned that like inside of a casino. It's like, yeah, I'm just in a tough financial position right now, and I just really want to play roulette. So can we just make a payment plan here? Could I just get 5,000 and I'll give you 1,000 each month? Like, I don't think that's going to work, Dave Ramsey Show. Whether it's the casino, the HVAC company, we are in 2023 here. This isn't like the 1930s where we're just making arrangements and having a tab and we're promising to pay back. Like, how many people are just going to stiff the HVAC company? Like, are they really offering these? It'd be interesting to do like a live call one of these HVAC companies and say, hey, you know what? I haven't been good with credit and I can't use credit to buy an HVAC system and I really don't have money right now, but I promise I'll pay you back in a few weeks. Like, is anyone going to do that for you?
So whatever we're gonna, or we replace it. Let's say it's in the wintertime, and you go to the HVAC company and go, listen, I can cash flow this.
I can cash flow this. Give me money.
And I will cash flow it. And just having a human conversation with somebody.
A human conversation.
Yeah. But just relying on the credit card puts you in more stress. And
okay, but wouldn't your payment arrangement put you in some stress too, or like having this conversation? Now, I guess you could try for the conversation. I imagine that some people would be embarrassed by this because if you could set up a payment plan again, then why can't you just open a credit card and get the sign-up bonus, get the 0% APR, and set up the payment arrangement with like Citi or Chase rather than calling HVAC companies and begging for a loan or a payment plan?
More problems because while you take care of the immediate need, you're stuck with it for a long time.
But are you really stuck with it for a long time? Again, in my example, if you have an extra $250 a week, just for example, and you get 0% APR, you put aside that extra $1,000 a month, and you're able to pay it off if you have to make this $8,000 purchase. So are you really stuck for a long time? Are you really paying this 28% interest forever? I don't think it has to be that way.
And so I think it depends, George, on the specific fear.
Okay, so now we're back to the fear. And this $8,000, like, is this really, okay, I'm only going to use credit and I'm only going to put this $8,000 expense and pay the interest? Like, say, okay, well, my average budget, I'm spending like $1,500 a month, groceries, car insurance, utilities, rent, whatever. And okay, I'm making $3,000 from a traditional job. So if I'm budgeting for $1,500 a month, can I just put those expenses on a credit card? I know that $3,000 is coming in as long as the work keeps up. So, okay, I can use my checking account, pay these things in full, and not pay the 28% interest. Okay, you get the cash back, you'll get the sign-up bonuses. I know people who don't do the more advanced plays like I do with the reselling, with the gift cards, and they're still able to succeed. They're still getting sign-up bonuses. They're still traveling. They're still making and saving money. So what is so difficult about that? If you can be responsible and say, look, I'm only going to put my average expenses on the card. I'm not going to go whale out and buy these plasma TVs, these Gucci bags, these designer clothes, these $3,000 suits from Saks Fifth Avenue, like whatever your whalish thing of mention here is. Just be responsible with the credit, and then you're not paying the 28% interest. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Okay, well, deprivation or 28% interest. There are other options there.
But a lot of people just feel like I'm not going to be able to be comfortable and take care of my life. And Les, who was on with me, one of our FPU coaches, we talked about AC going in my car one time.
Yeah, so that's another thing that can happen. That could be kind of expensive to get the air conditioning in your car fixed. Now, Dave Ramsey, in many cases, encourages you to just have a beater to have this like really junky car. Don't get any auto loan whatsoever, even if it's like a 3% rate. I've been critical of that in other videos. Like if I can get a modest used car for like $10,000 and pay 3%, I'm very happy to do that. And I just recently opened an account with Juno, which is a 5% APY checking account. And instead of fronting the $10,000, and I could front the $10,000, I just decided to take the auto loan. And now instead of having that $10,000 just paying off the car, I can put that $10,000 in there and earn 5% APY. So why not do something like that? And I do even better because many banks will say, hey, open an account with us, keep $3,000 in there for 90 days. We'll give you a bonus $400. So you can do a lot of things with that extra money rather than saying, oh, all debt is bad, never have any debt.
It went. And this is when we first lived here in Nashville the first time, and we were working the baby steps.
Yeah.
And I couldn't afford, I could have, but I didn't want to stop.
Okay, so if you can't afford certain things, then be careful about the spending. Don't overspend. Don't pay the 28% interest.
The momentum. So, George, I got up earlier and drove into the office an hour earlier.
Okay, so John, you've been in a case where you couldn't afford certain things, and now you're on the Ramsey show, you're doing your coaching, whatever, Financial Peace University. So if you can be responsible, now you have money behind, like what's stopping you from using credit responsibly? Are you saying this, oh, we're supposed to take John Coleman's financial advice, George Hamill on the left here, George, sorry, George something, I don't quite remember, live video, LOL. But can these people successfully use credit? Can they be responsible with credit? Or are they being so extreme that they're saying that credit is just going to make you lose your mind? You're going to be paying 28% interest. This is bad. You're going into debt. Like, they could use credit and profit off of it, as many listeners surely can. Some self-discipline, get the sign-up bonuses, get the benefits, make life a little bit easier, have the protections.
So that I wasn't sweating profusely to get into the office.
Yeah, so that's a big problem. Like, if you're going to say that, okay, I won't put anything on a credit card, and I'm just going to sweat, I'm not going to have any air conditioning in the car, I'm not going to have air conditioning at home, and it's like 95 degrees out, like, that seems really terrible. If Dave Ramsey is telling people, like, don't have any debt whatsoever, don't have any credit cards whatsoever, and, you know, that's going to be a life of squalor, that you're not going to have these essential things or these really, really nice things that are probably basics at this point in 2023. Like, not having air conditioning is a disaster. Not having a computer at home, I think, is a disaster, as I'm using the internet to make money and access information and keep in touch with people. Like, I need a phone, I would think. Like, maybe I can live this, like, really low-tech life, but I'd be missing out on so much. So if I can use credit, pay things in full, not pay the 28% interest, then why not go with that? Now, if you're that Target worker making $10-15 an hour and, okay, well, I only have like $200 back, but I want to get a new smartphone, it's going to cost me $500. Well, I think it's probably worth opening that 0 APR credit card, keeping that money aside from Target, maybe looking at other ways to increase your income as well. Hopefully, pick up some side hustles. You can put that $500 on a 0 APR credit card, and it's going to be a good thing for you in the long run if you pay it off in full and be responsible.
That's a
And
creative
at the
move.
end of the day, it didn't matter. I was going home. And then
This is like, oh, just sweat it out, whatever. No air conditioning in my car when it's 95 degrees out. I don't want to go into debt. Like, is that what he's saying here?
one day I was driving home, George, and insult to injury, I came up to a stoplight. It was almost like the debt gods were trying to
The debt gods were trying to embarrass him.
I got no AC. I'm sweating, hair all over the place.
Because he doesn't want to open a credit card, he's going to be sweating in 95-degree weather, driving his car, and like the roof collapses here on him at a stoplight. Like, what a disaster. This is the life that Dave Ramsey's saying. Well, you know, I know, listener, you can open a 0% APR credit card and fix these things. You know, get rid of your dental pain, have air conditioning once again, you know, whatever some of these costs might be. I think that would be worthwhile on taking on that little amount of risk personally. But, you know, Dave Ramsey's saying don't have any credit cards, don't have any debt whatsoever. If you can't afford it, don't buy it. So even though you have no air conditioning, just sweat it out. It's going to be great. You can't go into debt. That's going to be terrible.
Because the windows are down. And that, I don't know what you call that, your roof liner inside the
This is a disaster.
car, just all of a sudden detached out of nowhere, and it was sitting on top of my head. I felt.
Well, you know, don't take an auto loan. You're just going to get this beater that has no air conditioning and the roof falls on your head.
At a stoplight, and I look up, and
Boy.
and you know how embarrassing that is?
Yeah, very embarrassing. Just like using cash and debit for everything when you can successfully use credit, travel the world at next to no cost.
Yeah. Because you think that
That's a
everyone
no
at the
good, very
stoplight
bad
is
day.
going, look at this loser over there.
Yeah, it's really how I started thinking about the Ramsey show and a lot of his adherents. It's like they're complaining about travel being expensive. Oh, I don't have any money. Oh, how do you vacation so much, Justin? I wish I can do that. I wish I can do what you do, Justin. And I say, like, actually, you can. Can you be responsible? Oh, I don't know. It's too much work. Oh, it seems like too much hassle. Like, some of these people complain and then they don't want to take action to have success. It's just really interesting. Dave Ramsey, don't have any credit cards. They're actively depriving people of travel who can be responsible with credit. Again, I'm always putting the asterisk in there. I'm not saying pay that 28% interest. And if you can't handle credit, you probably shouldn't do it. If you really, really, really lack all that self-control, then the game is not for you. But surely there are people who can have self-control, who can play the game successfully.
It's 100 degrees in Nashville. He's got the roof interior carpet hanging on his head. I went home, was so mad I got the staple gun out of the storage.
Yeah, so you don't want to get a new car when the air conditioning has failed. You're going to be stapling the roof back on, the whatever he's calling it back on. We're just going to keep riding that beater. The air conditioning might take a few thousand to fix, but you know what? We're just going to sweat in the 95-degree weather because Dave Ramsey told us never to take an auto loan because debt is all bad. Even though we can only pay like 2-3% on an auto loan, we're just not going to take it, and we're just going to sweat in 95-degree weather. This is the Ramsey Show, folks.
That's therapeutic right there.
2 staples in the top. Took care of that problem. It cost me nothing.
Wow.
This is ridiculous. It's like the TLC show. I've seen on a Graham Stephan show, the Extreme Cheapskates, that this person runs a dishwasher and like puts a lasagna in the dishwasher because there's heat and they don't want to pay money for the oven. Like, come on, people. You can spend some money for reasonable things. It doesn't have to be this like, oh, don't spend anything. All spending is bad. All debt is bad. Like, it makes sense to take on debt at a low cost with an auto loan. Maybe, yeah, you're having those dental issues, those HVAC issues, and you take on credit with 0 APR. It's going to be okay if you can be responsible. But the Dave Ramsey show is like these lasagna people. Like, well, it's going to cost us extra money to, fix the AC or get a new vehicle, but we're just going to keep riding this beater. Very, very interesting.
You afraid of?
Yeah.
You afraid of being embarrassed at the stoplight? I get it.
Well, people might laugh and ridicule you, but, just keep driving that beater. And, maybe the alarm goes off every time you open the door. Maybe it doesn't start once in a while. Maybe you have to run it like 10 minutes in the winter to get it going. Maybe you have to like how far does it go on? Like at some point you're going to replace a vehicle when it's just a disaster, right? It's okay to take on that auto loan, people.
That's a good question. A lot of people they're very optimistic when it comes to their own stupidity. They're going, yeah, we'll pay it out. We're going to open the card. It'll be great.
Yeah, so don't just open a card and think you're going to pay it off. If you can't, be intentional and have a plan. As I was saying, have a budget like Dave Ramsey talks about and see how much money you could put aside every month. And if you can put aside an extra $1,000 a month and you're taking on a $3,000 expense to fix that air conditioning, then that's okay if you open a credit card and have 0% APR for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, whatever it is. And hopefully you can make more money. You can get a different job. This might be difficult. I mean, some people are in these low minimum wage jobs and it seem to be dead-end jobs. Some people are afraid of trying different positions, trying for change. It can be rough. There are some people out there who have a lot of kids and they're worried about, if I quit this job and try something else, will it work out? There's some fear there. It's not always going to be easy. But you know what? Credit can help in many ways as long as you can be responsible about it.
Very optimistic when it comes to justifying their spending habits, their decisions, and very pessimistic when it comes to following a proven plan.
The proven plan. So, as I've said about Dave Ramsey's plan, yes, it can make sense to put money aside and invest, and you're earning money from that compound interest. I put Roth IRA. I deposit my Roth IRA into VOO, ticker VOO. This is an index fund. And I see, okay, well, I can deposit maybe $8,000 a year now. I'm dividing that by 12. I'm depositing every month. I'm investing. I'm keeping my expenses low. I'm not going into this crazy debt. I'm using credit and investing. I'm embracing the frugal life and using credit. And I get to live a pretty high-class lifestyle, I think, with all the travel thanks to credit. I'm able to save on groceries and gas, paying next to nothing thanks to store loyalty programs, reselling, and credit cards. The Dave Ramsey audience isn't doing this. Like for months, it was people complaining about, eggs are so expensive. Gas is so expensive. And I would tell these people, actually, you can go to local grocery store and buy gift cards there and get points, and you can get eggs for 99 cents. I don't know about that. That sounds like too much work. While they're working this like minimum wage job, it's like, doesn't that sound like too much work? Maybe you could take on some little things to make your life just a little bit better and save money, whether it's saving money on those eggs or the gas points or whatever it is. If you're already committing and saying like, oh, I'm doing a travel every summer, we're going on this family trip to Disney, why pay full price when you can open some credit cards and get the flights covered with points, get the hotels covered with points, and then you're back from your trip, you're broke, you're still paycheck to paycheck, whatever it is. Well, you could have just saved like $2,000, $3,000 on that trip. But Dave Ramsey's saying, don't do that. Don't have credit. Even if you can use credit, it's not going to amount to anything. But it's just simply false. Many people I've had on the show, you can listen to past podcast guests. They talk about, look, I'm a full-time worker and I'm able to use these credit cards and go on multiple trips a year. Or even if you go on 1 or 2 major trips a year, it's still better paying next to nothing on those trips versus paying full price.
Where they go, yeah, having $1,000 is scary and you should be scared. And the problem is when you have the credit card still there, you have a false sense of security.
A false sense of security. Unless we're being responsible with our spending and only spending things we can afford. It's not a false sense of security if we're being responsible with spending.
Yes.
You have a false sense of comfort. And
why is it a false sense? We have these extra credit lines that we can use if we need to, and we could pay these things back. What is false about this?
The book, The Comfort Crisis. You guys have been talking about this a lot with Dave. I think we're too comfortable. I think part of the reason America
be uncomfortable
is where it is today.
Yeah.
Broke, in debt, anxious, miserable, stressed.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be broke in debt. If you use credit responsibly, you won't be going into debt. But they're not going to tell you this. They're making it seem like all uses of credit are going into debt and paying the 28% interest. Why aren't they telling you about responsible uses of credit? And for the few times that they say and address people who say, look, I pay everything off in full, what's the problem? Oh, that's just a waste of time. But then they're ignoring people who are playing the game better. I've said it's like someone going to a poker table and not even looking at their cards. They're just blind all in, blind all in, blind all in. And they're saying, oh, poker is such a terrible game. Who can make money playing poker? This is how the Dave Ramsey show is when they're thinking about credit. The strategies that they have are so terrible, and they're not really addressing the people in points and miles spaces who are giving you strategies. Myself, Frequent Miler podcast, GeoBreeze Travel Podcast, Travel Zork with Michael Traeger. I'll be speaking at an event in Lake Tahoe later this year, teaching people how to make and save money. Many other speakers are doing the same thing. Dave Ramsey shows like, oh, you can't do that. It's a waste of time. But yet people are having success all over the United States thanks to credit. So why don't you join it rather than lamenting credit? If you, George, can be responsible with your money, why aren't you using credit cards? What's the problem?
Is because we're aiming for comfort and convenience and the easiest path.
Yeah, convenience is actually a nice thing rather than using cash and dealing with change and having to, oh, I had to go to the ATM to get some cash out so that I can buy this thing at the store, or, oh, I don't have enough cash on me, so I'm going to have to leave and come back in 10 minutes and possibly pay an ATM fee. Like, why not have the convenience? I have a smartwatch. I use it for mobile pay, and I'm not just wailing away buying random things just because I have the access to credit. George, I'm trying to help you here. Why don't you use credit? It seems like you can be responsible with your spending. You're a Ramsey personality, right? You know some things about money. Why don't you join the game? Renounce your ways.
Path of least resistance. Yeah. The most convenient path. Instead of going, dang it, I really got to work that extra job to get at.
Thanks to credit, I don't have to work extra jobs because I'm making so much on this that it's become a profitable side hustle.
Debt even faster. And that's what I love about baby step 1. I don't love that you're scared to death. But I love that it puts a fire under you to go, I wasn't safe ever. I had the
illusion of being safe because we had credit lines. Well, it's not much of an illusion if we can use credit responsibly, is it?
Illusion of safety.
That's right.
And then once you have the emergency fund in baby step 3, you got out of debt, you don't need the credit card.
So what about people who have emergency funds and use credit? Why are you saying it has to be one or the other? That, okay, you can't use credit and be successful and follow the baby steps. Well, why not? If we're not going into debt, we're not paying the interest, then what is the problem, George?
Like, George, I don't understand that mentality of what if.
Because I don't.
Yeah, so you know what? If the what if happens, I can use credit, pay it off in full, and be okay. But I have the emergency fund as well. I'm investing. I have many sources of income that are coming in, so it's not a problem. I use credit and I don't pay interest. What is the issue? Surely many listeners here also use credit and don't pay interest. Surely many Ramsey listeners will say, okay, I appreciate what you say about the frugal life, but I just put my expenses on a credit card. Even people out there using like 2% cashback credit cards for everything. 2% is better than 0% you're getting with debit and cash.
I don't think that they've been taught this, so I think this is I want to tee you up to teach on that.
Yeah, so they're not teaching an advanced credit game. They're making it seem like you're always going to go into debt, you can't control your spending, you're always going to pay interest, when it simply doesn't have to be the case. They're saying, oh, well, even people who use rewards cards, you only get 1% back. Who cares about 1%? Who cares about 2%? But I'm saying, look, you're going to get benefits for travel. You're going to get sign-up bonuses. You're going to get offers for statement credits. You're going to have so many options. You're going to be able to use 0% APR and leverage credit to fund accounts making 5% or more. You're going to get bank welcome offers. There's so much that you can do in this hobby. You don't have to be full-time to be successful. You can be part-time and still be successful.
Let's say that the thing happens. We've got $1,000 in baby step one.
Okay.
But then a $7,000 or $8,000 or $10,000,
Or even a $1,500 expense. They go, well, it's not enough, Ken.
Yep.
Okay, so guess what? Thanks to credit and 0 APR, we can have extra lines of credit to cover some really unfortunate happenings.
But my point is, they're all worried about this big thing above and beyond $1,000.
Yeah, so you're worried about that because if you're living the cash and debit lifestyle and you don't have money behind, then what are you going to do if the HVAC is going out? What are you going to do if that dental pain happens? What are you going to do if you get in a car accident? Like, there can be all these things that happen and you're worrying about that. You're worrying about that. You're paycheck to paycheck. You're worrying about paycheck to paycheck. But when you're using credit and using credit responsibly, that worry can go away.
Yeah. What do you teach? What would you tell them if you're sitting one-on-one with them and go, okay, this is 8,000, you only got 1,000. What are their options?
Yeah.
Number one, we say pause the baby steps.
Right.
If you've got kind of a storm. And
Okay, so you will need to spend. So how are we going to spend it if we don't have the extra cash? If we only have 1,000 behind?
in that case, we're going to pay all the minimums on the debts. We're going to cover the basic bills. Everything else, all the luxuries, they're out the window right now because we.
Okay, so yes, you can stop spending on those extra things. Now, you're saying here, okay, you're in debt, just pay the minimums on the debt. But what about the people who don't have the debt, George, and they could use credit responsibly? They're in a much better situation, don't you think? They can use credit and they could use credit responsibly rather than you saying don't have credit at all.
We got to sell everything we can, work as much as we can to find that gap, to make that margin. Once you've got that expense covered, we're back on track. We're attacking the debt.
Okay, so we can attack the debt and still use credit. I have the auto loan I've mentioned. I'm happy to make the minimum payments on that. And because I'm making minimum payments, then I can invest because I have extra money to use and I'm going to out earn that 3% or so on the auto loan. So they're making it out to seem like debt is all bad when it can make sense to take on low interest debt and make more money.
And in most situations, I've seen they end up not needing the full 1,000 or they pause it and they end up cash flowing it. And make sure you have the right insurance in place. This is something we teach because most
All right, so yeah, you can have some emergencies, but not everything is going to be covered by insurance. He's saying most things. Like, all right, fine, but what does that have to do with the whole credit card situation?
emergencies, a health emergency, you're going to have up to your deductible, and then you're
Yep.
covered. Right. And your auto insurance, make sure you've got the right coverage there.
Oh, well, one thing that's nice about auto insurance is that we can put auto insurance on a credit card if we're making quarterly payments, annual payments, and many people strategically time their auto insurance payments that they're going to pay a yearly auto insurance and get a sign-up bonus out of that. That U.S. Bank I mentioned, I got the leverage card with U.S. Bank. That was a $750 welcome bonus. So if you're paying this maybe $1,500 or so in auto insurance, then you could put a big chunk in the spend that's needed to get that $750. So thanks to credit, there's an extra $750 that's in your pocket. And how many hours would you have to work at that minimum wage or low wage job in order to make that $750? The $750 is also tax free because it comes as a statement credit. We're not getting a form in the mail for this. You can always contact your accountant, of course, but from most of what I've seen, we're not paying any taxes on credit card welcome bonuses. But the Dave Ramsey audience is not getting any credit card welcome bonuses because they're not teaching you about that. They're not teaching you about, oh, it makes sense to get multiple cards because you're going to get multiple welcome offers, which is money you're spending anyway on auto insurance, is money you're spending anyway on that dental work, that HVAC, these other things that they mentioned.
These kinds of things help me sleep at night to make sure that I'm covered in case of.
Credit helps me sleep at night because I have more options and I'm able to make and save money. I don't have to say, look, well, now I'm going to have to work these extra hours. I can travel, I can take the time off, and I'm not going to have to pay for the travel when I get back because the travel is covered with miles and points.
Something crazy happening. But a lot of times it's psychological, and it's them justifying why they want to keep the card around.
The whole phrase where
So what if they just keep the card and be responsible with the card and not pay the 28% interest?
there's a will, there's a way. In other words, it means, if I'm willing to figure it out, I'll find a way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Do you poke holes in that when it comes to this very scenario, or do you?
Okay, well, what way are we going to find? You were talking earlier about, we're just going to negotiate with the HVAC company and get a payment plan. Don't think that's realistic in many cases.
Believe that holds true. I'll find a way to not use a credit card. I'll find a way to pay it off. I'll find
Well, what if we just use the credit card and pay the credit card in full? What's the problem with that?
a way, but I'm not going to use a credit card.
Well, when you take debt off,
Okay, well, you can use a credit card in case of an emergency rather than sweating in your vehicle and the roof is falling off and it's not starting properly. There are all these emergencies you can have, and this can be resolved with using credit responsibly, taking on debt responsibly at a low rate. It can be okay. We're not going to drive this beater. We can get a car loan at a low interest rate because we have good credit, rather than, oh, hey, auto dealership, could we just make a payment plan? Just don't think that's going to work.
the table. If you just, in your mind, pretend and go, credit cards are not an option, debt is not an option, what would I do?
Okay, but it doesn't have to be debt. Debt doesn't have to be an option if we're paying cards in full.
If this was the 1930s and
I'm going to sound like a broken record here. Oh, the 1930s. Well, it isn't the 1930s. It's 2023. So why wouldn't we use the options that we have?
debt wasn't marketed as heavily as it is today,
The debt is being marketed. Yeah, I guess we can see offers like, oh, pay later, split the payments, but you're not necessarily going into debt if you have the money to pay for these things. Or if you don't for some reason, again, you could use the 0% APR intro welcome offers.
what would I do? You go, all right, I'm going to go sell some stuff. I'm going to go get the side job. I'm going to cut down all my expenses to.
Yeah, I don't know. Can you really get the side job for these people that are already working full-time or working two jobs? Like, I think there might be some kind of cap on the earnings that they can make. They're not going to have that extra time necessarily. So it can make sense to keep using credit, to be responsible with credit for sure, rather than just fronting cash for everything. Take that auto loan. It makes sense to do that in many cases.
The bare bones. I'm going to work out a payment plan with the HVAC guy to pay
Work out the payment plan with the HVAC guy. Good luck with that.
this thing off, and we're going to figure it out. So my challenge to everyone out there is, could you live 90 days without using your credit card?
Absolutely not. I don't think I go one day without using a credit card. Like, why would I just stop using it if I could be responsible? So maybe he's saying, okay, well, if you can't be responsible, then don't use it. Okay, fine. We can agree with that. But why not just teach responsibility? Why not just teach the mindfulness? Why not teach better strategies for using credit and not paying the 28% interest? They're not going to do that. You're not going to hear that from the Ramsey show, or they're going to poo-poo credit. So that's about it from that clip. So let's scroll down to the YouTube comments here. We'll see here. Biggest thing holding me back is international travel. My Citibank credit card had fraud charges twice in Mexico and one time in Peru. It was very easy to resolve, and Citi provided credits to my account the same day. If it was my debit card, it would have been a big problem because my account would have been shut down. I do not allow my debit card to overdraft. It could ruin someone's vacation if they don't have resources or another card. And then your automatic withdrawals might bounce and you get non-sufficient funds charges that have to be sorted out. So that's the nice thing about credit too, as you have auto payments on credit card for certain subscriptions, maybe your auto insurance, maybe different programs that you have. And we don't run into that issue of, oh, wow, well, I only had about $500 in this checking account and I wanted to take out the $1,000 in auto insurance and I forgot. So now I'm having to pay these extra fees. With credit, it's not the case. You're not going to have to pay these non-sufficient funds, insufficient funds charges. That's another problem with using debit for everything if you don't have a lot of money in the checking accounts. So a good point here. We'll give that the thumbs up. Kang here in the comments, at 3 minutes I laughed so hard. I don't know what world Ken Coleman is living in. No business will care about your financial situations. This is again when Ken was talking about, oh, just make an arrangement with the HVAC people and tell them that you're having a hard time and they'll extend you some payment plan or something. Yeah, again, not so realistic. Here we go. The Silver Sliver. That young man's headliner story hardly compares to a family in northern Maine that lost their furnace in the middle of the winter and needs heat now or will die of exposure. No one in their right mind wants to borrow money at 28%. Stuff sometimes happens. Life puts you in a bad place. So yeah, we're not necessarily having to pay the 28% interest. There are better ways to go about it. If it's going to be the winter and a harsh climate, yeah, it can make sense to take on that 0% APR credit card. But in the Dave Ramsey world, for those living to paycheck, they have the NA credit score, or they've canceled everything, whatever the case. What are they going to do in the middle of the winter if that furnace goes out? So a good point here from the Sliver. Going down here, Leo, most credit card users aren't disciplined like anything else. Is it really the case of most credit card users? Even if it's the case, surely there can be a certain percentage that succeeds that can be responsible. So it's irresponsible for Dave to say no one should have any credit cards. It's all debt. It's all bad. It's all ruin. Here's John in the comments. I have not paid a penny in interest or a penny towards a hotel stay in 14 years. Absolutely. Pay things in full. Rack up the points. Rack up the hotel stays, the flights, and so much more. Why would you not do that if you can be responsible? Going down here to another comment, I have 2 credit cards. I have not paid any interest in the last 17 or 18 years. I use them. I pay them twice a month. I have no debt of any kind. The card stay is my safety blanket, and because you have good credit, everything is cheaper. It's absolutely the case. Everything is cheaper when you have good credit if you're looking to get certain loans. Whereas with the Dave Ramsey solution of let's just go ahead and talk to the HVAC company and arrange a payment plan. Good luck with that. Here we go. Since the local credit union branch closed, I've developed the habit of using credit card for groceries because it's hard to go to the distant main branch to get paper cash. The credit card draws money out of a checking account. So yeah, you can treat a credit card like a checking account. You're checking all your accounts once a week, once every 2 weeks, whatever it is, paying them in full. It's taking the money out of the checking account. I wouldn't recommend going with credit unions early in your credit journey. Probably it's best to start with Chase and banks that are stricter like US Bank and Barclays. But anyway, David has a point here. If you could treat credit like a debit card, you're racking up the rewards, you're having the convenience, you're not having to deal with the paper money and change. Here we go. Todd, what if you use a personal credit card responsibly? Since 1989 and in 33.5 years, you've never paid off the balance in full, never not paid off the balance in full, never had a late payment, never paid an annual fee, never paid a finance charge, never carried a balance. So Todd has a good point here. Although I think it can be very wise to pay annual fees on cards, assuming that you're getting a good return on the annual fees. For instance, the World of Hyatt credit card, you're paying a $95 annual fee, and every year you're getting a free night certificate to stay at a Hyatt property, and you're getting many other benefits from the card. So even if just the free night certificate, surely you would think it worthwhile to use that at Hyatt Regency in Albuquerque, where I've gone before for the International Balloon Fiesta, and getting a great hotel room that would retail for about $300. You're paying the $99 annual fee, you're getting the free night, and so much more. What a good deal. Now, don't pay annual fees when it doesn't make sense. Reevaluate every year when the annual fee comes up. Is it worth it to pay this annual fee? Many issuers will say you can downgrade the card to a different product to a no annual fee card, or you can just cancel the card if it makes sense to do so. Generally, I like the downgrading or the product changing. So Todd did not get that information from the Dave Ramsey Show where it can make sense to pay an annual fee, unfortunately. So hopefully Todd and many other listeners will not fear the annual fee if the annual fee makes sense to pay. Sarah Montes, the payment plan to HVAC is still debt. Yeah, that's correct. Like if you're putting on a credit card or putting it to the HVAC people, like you still owe money. So why not just put it on credit with a 0 APR? Here's a comment from Natasha. I don't have credit cards, never had one. I live with debit cards and cash. What a disaster. Not saying I won't get one day, but it will be for me to use for major life changes, not on things that will get me in trouble because I fear owing debt and being hunted by banks. Well, Natasha, if you're just responsible with spending and you pay everything off, then what is the big problem here? If you can have some discipline, what is the problem? Going down here to other things, Ken's advice is to beg the HVAC company to not pay them until later interest-free. What planet is he living on? Outstanding AR is one of the biggest headaches for any business, accounts receivable, I suppose. The company may offer financing at a better interest rate than a credit card, but it's still debt. Yeah, that's correct. So why not just open a credit card and enjoy a 0% APR intro offer and paid off in full to not pay interest. Aaron says, let's make a list of HVAC companies that will let you make payments on an $8,000 repair. Yeah, good luck with that, Aaron, for sure. Going down, another comment, my sister-in-law could not believe we didn't use credit cards since 2018. Her reasoning was the points reward she gets back, and also for any emergency. I told her I have a 6-month emergency fund and that'll work better than a credit card. She looked at me and my husband like we are insane. Yes, Sinel in the comments here, you do seem insane. If you can be responsible with your spending, why not put it on credit and pay it in full? You're getting the points, you're getting the rewards, you're getting the cash back, you're getting the benefits, you're getting the welcome bonus. So why would you not get that if you can be responsible with your spending? Another comment here, SO Non, my God, these people do not live in reality. On what planet do they think a store employee will care or be able to do something about anyone not being able to afford a new HVAC system and a payment plan will solve the problem? Correct. Good luck with begging the HVAC company for money and a payment plan. So this was a response to Dave Ramsey's Ramsey Show highlights, why people are afraid to let go of credit cards. Don't be afraid of credit cards if you can be a responsible spender. There is a world of rewards to gain, flexibility, life agility, making money on 0 APR and temporary grace periods of credit cards, purchase protections, and so many more things. Lots of good reasons to use credit if you can be responsible. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned for future episodes. Visit hurdygurdytravel.com to contact me, find me on social media, read select episode transcripts, and schedule a free consultation. Support the show through Subscribestar, referral links, and buying from my eBay store. Find the show on many podcast platforms and YouTube where you can find bonus videos. Supporting me on Subscribestar will give you special perks, including a custom podcast episode, questions answered by upcoming guests, and monthly private one-on-one conversations, delving into more advanced topics I don't openly discuss at length on podcast episodes. Visit meetup.com/Philly Miles and Points to learn about Greater Philadelphia travel, credit miles and points meetups I host in Willow Grove, Pennsylvania. I hope to see you in person at a future event. Find a link in the show notes. Listen to my other podcast, the Stoic Solutions Podcast, found at stoicsolutionspodcast.com. My podcast guests and I offer practical wisdom for everyday life inspired by the ancient tradition of Stoic philosophy from Greece and Rome. Thank you for listening and have a great day.